and a guy who's been in trouble with the league before. And, well, I got a feeling we're not going to see him on the court for the rest of the regular season and probably the postseason, and that's Ja Morant, suspended famously for brandishing a weapon in the past, a real weapon. Here, as he's heading towards the bench during a timeout, doing the gesture of I don't even know what kind of gun you would be pointing at, but right, the finger pistol and the whole histrionics, noticed as he walks past Steph Curry and Draymond Green. Now, Steph has the monster night on the court, but even he gestures back to Steph like, did you see what this guy just did? So Steph's in his zone. He doesn't really acknowledge it as he walks past him, but Draymond sure as hell is like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? The NFL pointing out that the 152% rise in gestures that had a violent overtone to them. Add to that another 50% of sexual overtones that we saw, because you only get one thrust.
I was going to say,
you don't get the second.
Someone in the NFL office has a little too much time on their hands.
Well, but you're trying to go through the rules and points of emphasis and things that maybe you're getting notes from either network executives, affiliates, kind of like ours, right? We may have on our 500-plus affiliates nationwide. We appreciate you all tuning in however you're listening, whether it be globally on the iHeartRadio app, our local affiliates nationwide, where you might have someone who owns one or two affiliates in an area.
That's fair.
Where, depending on where you're at in our land mass here in the continental U.S., that maybe your rules of engagement are a little different than somebody else. So you get a note that you have to look into, and maybe you get a proliferation of them depending on the scope and window of a game, right? A primetime game is going to have more eyeballs, which maybe if you keep the camera on a guy in a post-sack, post-touchdown celebration,
totally fair,
you get a little extra something.
Sure.
And maybe you get enough people that raise an eyebrow to it and call it to your attention that you have to. And certainly for the violent things.
Yes.
I mean, we saw that the A.J. Brown celebration of the nose wipe.
And I was going to say, especially to get back to the Ja Morant, given his history, I know we are in the midst, we are a audio medium, but for people who have not seen the video yet, it's Ja Morant, as you said, Mike, appearing to cleverly, in his mind, brandish a firearm. And again, I know you want to get back. I know you were sharing some NFL stuff,
but it ties together, right? Like we're looking at the NFL, trying to make sure that you keep it clean. You got to think of the children, right, and the bad example or whatever. But to Ja, you've already had a history.
It's just so dumb. It's just so dumb, Mike. And I'm just so, listen. I'm like most people. I'm willing to give people, especially young people, second chances, maybe third chances, whatever. Okay, stuff happens. You do dumb stuff. But we know the background with Ja Morant. We know the strip club. We know then a few weeks later in the car with his buddy. We know about the suspension. We know, by the way, about the injury last year that he came back from. And it really felt like, to his credit, for about probably 65% of the season, was just showing up and playing really good basketball. But I think it's safe to say the last probably week or so, some regression from Ja Morant. I think we all think, to some degree, every NBA insider that I've had on when I've filled in on these Fox Sports Radio airwaves seems to think that he played a role in Taylor Jenkins no longer being the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, even though they're in 5th place in the Western Conference standings. And then to your point tonight, just an embarrassing display. It's just embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. It's immature. Like I said, I'm always happy to give a guy a second chance if it's nothing violent or criminal. But the first one was sort of criminal because, I don't know how you get a gun into a strip club in Denver. Another conversation. I'm willing to give a guy a second or third chance, but stop being an idiot. Ja Morant is officially on the idiot list. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have the open carry and whether you can have a concealed weapon, like jurisdictions, it's going to vary from state to state. Municipality to municipality, but all in all, just a bad idea.
Agreed.
Right?
100%.
Nothing good is going to happen from that, and certainly when we talk about youthful indiscretions, right, you get the one. And you get out, and fortunately, like nothing transpired. Then you get the second, all right, again, nothing bad happen. But again, the league, optics, the rules of engagement. Look, you may not like it. Like there's the federal and local and state laws and everything in terms of you and your weapon. That's great. You can get into your, First Amendment, Second Amendment rights and all of those things, right? Your speech, but there's ramifications for that. Likewise, yes, you have your Second Amendment right to bear arms, but you also are an employee of the National Basketball Association. If they tell you not to have weapons with you, to add extra personnel if you need to, contact the league if you're not feeling safe. And maybe you shouldn't be going somewhere if you're not feeling safe. But even if you do, that's another thing of contacting the league and talking out your circumstance. Seems like, or your team, or your coach if you're getting along. Again, he missed 2 weeks with an injury that many, as you alluded to, are wondering how much of that was, I'm just tired of Taylor Jenkins, my role in the offense and where we're headed, to which Jenkins is no longer employed by said squad.
Well, no, and the other thing I had forgotten about until we started this Ja Morant slippery slope was the thing where his buddies were in, it was at Crypto.com Arena, and there's the red dot. And nobody, I don't know if there was ever a resolution on that, but it definitely spooked some people, and it's just, the guy's a clown. I mean, again, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt to anybody, but when we're talking about a fourth, fifth instance, and by the way, I understand there's a difference between carrying a gun and a difference between doing the gesture. But have some common sense, have some whatever, and this guy just has none of it. He just has none.
But again, the league's being sensitive to their own reputation and what goes out. And, we joke about the think of the children, but they're trying to curb where there may be a connection, right? Again, owing to the A.J. Brown celebration that will not be, right, going and wiping your nose. Well, if you tie it to gang affiliations, whether real or imagined, if you're trying to be sensitive to that, and you make a rule in place, well, that's the case. And look, if it comes down to, hey, we're being square, you're trying to keep your guys safe, trying to look at the reputation of your league. And we know cosmetically they do a lot of things in the name of player safety that we laugh and go, well, you're still running 100 miles an hour into each other, 80 plays a game on either side of the ball, all of that. So how safe are you? And we can talk about how disingenuous some of the rules adjustments are. We'll get into the tush-push being tabled and in terms of a vote to outlaw that, but it's all in the name of player safety is what people keep coming back to. This is legitimately a whole other thing when we're talking about weapons, brandishing a weapon, guy who's been seen with weapons before, and these type of gestures that go into potentially real action. It doesn't take a whole lot to go from theory and, you made a gesture into a very real violent situation. As you said, in the bowels of an arena. Nothing really ever came out of it, but you can't tell me the league, the teams, the players, the teammates, or anybody associated with the squad felt really good coming out of that situation.
When you see me rolling my eyes, it is certainly not at you. It is the behavior of Ja Morant and everybody around him. It's just, again, I've said it 2 or 3 times in this segment, so I apologize. I understand there's a difference between a gesture and actually carrying a weapon, whatever, but given your history, just cut it out, just play it cool, just act like an adult, and all the things. By the way, going to be 26 this year. You're not a kid anymore. You're not 19. It's not your second or third year. Grow up. There's nothing else to say other than grow up.
Well, but you've already been suspended, right? And we always talk about your talent trumping your trouble, right? That's one of the big mantras in any walk of life, no matter what you do for a living, right? You could be a lawyer, you could be an acquisitions manager, you could be an accountant, all the way through. You might be the best guy or woman on the floor at all of those jobs. In our business, there's 1 million people looking to occupy your seat. So no matter how good you are, if suddenly you're embroiled in a bunch of legalese and lawyers have to get involved, or they've got to go and try to assuage the feelings and business partnerships, guess what? At some point, you hit the tipping point 100%. To where it's like, you know what? The next person in this in the seat. Might not be as good, but they're not
Less
costing
headaches,
us a bunch of money in terms of the legal
bad PR,
ramifications, bad
everything.
PR, and trying to massage all of that, right? TV and radio side, go back, whatever you do out there, however you're getting by, same idea. You've got someone in mind, whether you're looking in the mirror or you're thinking of someone on your staff that, every once in a while there's a dust up that you need to go through. It's like, yeah, he doesn't get along with everybody in the office place. But you know what? The numbers are good. The sales are good. At some point, there's the tipping point. You have to decide what that is. For Ja Morant, you've already had the suspension. You're shooting 44% from the field. You're not dunking and going to the rim as aggressively, and that's all fine and good. As long as you're still putting enough points up and the offense is still humming, historically, you'd say you have that. Well, now you fired a coach, seemingly at his behest, or at least part of that at his behest. 22-4. Got a lot of guys score 22 points a game. Right? Mm-hmm. That's the one thing in the NBA. We got plenty of guys that can score. It's everything else. Can you play defense? Can you do all the secondary parts to the scorecard, to the box score, and what gets you to the winner's circle? And certainly for Memphis over the course of the year, they played pretty well.
They're
right,
a
slump here of
place.
Late, so now you're in fifth place when you were battling up in the second, and we didn't expect them to finish second place, but playing well to where you're a playoff team, and now you fired your coach, and now you have this in a big marquee game because it's going to get extra attention because you're playing the Warriors, and Steph had a 50-burger on you.